Regarding the long standing, never ending, self perpetuating affordable housing crisis, one narrative we often hear that employers just need to pay employees a living wage is problematic for several reasons. Now, I am a Bernie fan, and I am no fan of the current corporate state and the way big business has usurped our government. But as this narrative fails to address the root problem, it is ultimately ineffective and its benefits are very short lived. So let's jump in. Number one, the higher wages are, the more the housing market inflates. Because we have no limits on the amount of housing one person or one company can hoard, and few effective price controls on the rents they can charge and on the sales prices they can set on the homes they control, the end result is that the more money employers pay workers, the more landlords can and do then raise their rents, and the more home sellers can and do then raise their sales prices. Number two, if we enable the scenario in which it is the perpetual responsibility of employers to raise wages whenever landlords and sellers have raised rents and sales prices to the point renters and buyers are financially squeezed, well, then when does the cycle end? When do they stop asking for more and more? Hint, they don't. Because we're not dealing with the root problem, the cycle doesn't end. Three, demanding employers pay wages to keep up with constantly inflating and hyperinflating land and housing costs takes a much bigger toll on small employers who are less likely than big businesses to have the cash flows and profit margins necessary to absorb the costs of paying higher wages, and they are subsequently more prone to downsizing and closing, giving big businesses yet another competitive advantage. Four, it raises labor costs for domestic manufacturers, making it harder for them to compete with foreign manufacturers, further increasing our dependency on foreign manufacturers and increasing our vulnerability as we lose our ability to provide for ourselves. So, are big corporations problematic in the US? Yes. They are controlling the government, the Supreme Court, the media, our healthcare, etc., etc. And the upper management compensation and stock buybacks are obscene. And all of these issues need to be addressed. But using them as the scapegoat for our failure to address our dysfunctional housing system's underlying unlimited feudalistic inflationary property laws is doing much more harm than good. Demanding employers pay workers the wages needed to keep up with the greed of those controlling land and housing, knowing those increased wages will be in and out of workers' pockets and into the pockets of those controlling housing within a couple of years, all while simultaneously failing to effectively address the constantly inflating cost of housing, is a damaging and doomed strategy. If instead we do effectively address the underlying roots of the problem, not only will we begin addressing immediate consequences of our unaffordable housing crisis, such as homelessness and excessive rent and mortgage burdens, but we will also begin to eliminate the many broader negative effects, such as the burdens inflated payrolls bear on smaller companies and the government, which then passes those costs on to us in the form of higher taxes and fees and by cutting back on services. And we will begin to eliminate our growing dependency on foreign manufacturers and the increasing vulnerability that has arisen as we have further continued to surrender our ability to provide for ourselves. Yes, it is time to finally unearth, understand, and effectively address the deepest systemic roots of our dysfunctional land and housing system.